guys, so today I'm going to be talking about bringing home baby and the changes that might happen in your life as a result of bringing home baby. And I'm talking about physical changes, emotional changes and practical kind of day-to-day changes, and how I personally coped with that transition, because I found it really difficult, and ways that you can kind of just really enjoy kind of transition into that kind of easier. So my story kind of begins with me feeling very shocked when I was pregnant. I was told that I couldn't get pregnant quickly. I was actually referred to a fertility unit, and on that week it was when I found out that I was pregnant. And I was, though I was extremely over the moon, I was also very shocked. I'd never actually, despite having infertility issues, wanted children until I got married. It would have been nice to have known that I could get pregnant, and I think that's where my anxiety lay. But then when I was pregnant, I was incredibly shocked, and I wasn't sure if it was for me, and I was just excited and anxious and all these feelings and emotions all in one go. So as a result, I never really kind of bonded with my bump that well. But to try and make it easier, I spent lots of time doing what most pregnant women do, and that's kind of really embracing the kind of shopping aspect, buying lots of clothes, reading books and watching programs. I'd sit watching One Born Every Minute all the time, and you know, Call the Midwife, programs like that. And of course doing up the nursery is something that I did quite a lot of. And I remember looking back on that time now, and I think I wasted a lot of the time that I had. I was on maternity leave for half of it and working part-time for the beginning of it, and I really wish I had enjoyed that time, because it's such a precious time. It's the last, it goes so fast, it's the last few months that you have with just you and your husband. And we married very quickly, and then got pregnant very quickly, so we didn't really have that time as a married couple, and I wish we did have a bit more time in between then. But we still used to go out and have late night dinners, and you know, we'd stay up late until like half 11, 12 watching Game of Thrones, and you know, just life was just normal. That's kind of what we've always done. And if I didn't sleep very well one night, it didn't matter, because I'd have a lie-in, and if I felt really groggy and tired, it's okay, because I could just get in my pyjamas and just slop on the sofa. And all these things, I look back and I just think, oh, you know, you can't do them. When you have a baby, you can't just veg on the sofa and slob about, or if you're ill, you have to just kind of crack on with it and get on with it. And you can't go out for late night dinners because it might be baby's bedtime and things like that. So I just kind of, that's one thing I wish I had just spent a bit more time really just enjoying the time that I did have. I remember as well looking at the nursery Playmobil and wondering what this baby was going to look like, and how things were going to be different, and what you know, what personality this baby was going to have. And it was mainly about what they were going to, what he was going to look like. I couldn't picture it in my head, you know, a combination of me and Chris. And as it turns out, Sebastian is just all Chris and none of me. But it was a really strange, confusing time for me. I just was so surprised. It was just so strange being pregnant. It was just something that I never thought would happen. So the whole pregnancy, even the whole 9 months, I was always like, wow, I'm pregnant, like the whole time. And then before you know it, you get to kind of term and you're 37 weeks. And I remember thinking at that point, getting quite excited, and everything was ready. And I remember thinking, I just want the baby out now. And a friend of mine said, don't wish that time away, because there's going to come a time when the baby is out and you're going to want them back in. And I've never heard truer words, because it's so true. You know, I'd watched all these programs about how labour was going to be, and I got all emotional and like tearful with happy tears. And unfortunately, my labour wasn't anything how I wanted it to be. It didn't go well at all. I will do a labour and delivery story at some point. I haven't got around to that because it was such a traumatic labour that I'm just not over it yet, and I still need to kind of get my head around a lot of things before I can really talk about it on camera without totally breaking down. But it was not how I wanted it to be. It went on for hours. It went on for nearly 47 hours, I think it was, my labour. with no sleep. And one thing they don't tell you is that once you've had your baby, you're not going to get to sleep after that. You're not going to kind of have your baby and get to sleep and recover. You're in it straight away. And because I was breastfeeding, you know, and then they kept giving me cocodamol. I was high off my face on this cocodamol and breastfeeding this screaming baby, and just I was absolutely exhausted beyond belief. And I kept thinking, it's okay, I'm going to go home and I'm going to get rest. It's okay, I'm going to go home, I'm going to get rest. And I, to this day, still never got caught up on that rest. It was just a very difficult time bringing home baby. I remember I went to a midwife-led unit for a week to kind of recover and just to kind of get a bit of extra support, because my postpartum depression was instantaneous. As soon as I had Sebastian, I had no kind of bond with him. I was in shock. I was just in absolute shock. I couldn't believe how he looked. He looked cute, you know, cute as a little button, but he didn't look anything like me. He didn't look how I expected him to look. He was perfect, but I was just completely shocked. Total shock of what had happened and what that my life was actually, it had changed and it had come around so quickly, and I just didn't have the time to kind of get my head, even after 9 months, I just couldn't get my head around any of what was going on. I remember driving back just feeling very tearful and thinking, when I walk through that door, there's going to be no more just kicking your shoes off and sitting on the sofa, or going to just make a cup of tea or nipping up to the loo, because that just ends. That there's no more of that. One thing that helped me get through that whole period of time of things changing was to actually change my identity. And my identity was still back there, where I was just, you know, me and my husband, and I was just Yummy and nobody else, and my life was all about makeup and work and friends and going out and drinking, you know, my life and art, and that, you know, that was my life. And my whole identity had to change. As soon as my identity changed and I became mum, then I totally embraced it and I was in it, and I could laugh about it, but I couldn't laugh about it. People were joking about, you know, oh, you're not going to sleep for a long time and you're not going to get a line. And I was thinking, that's not funny. That's not a joke. That's serious stuff. And now I can, like, I'm laughing about it now. I can joke about it now, because to me it is, you know, that's just part of being a mum. I don't want this to come across as a negative video. This is just my experience, because my experience was a negative one, because I didn't prepare, but believe me, the rewards totally outweigh any. It's just, being a mum is amazing. Once you've identified yourself, you're like, I'm mum, and you totally embrace it and you get into the role of mum, it's awesome. It's the best thing in the world, and I wouldn't, you know, I couldn't imagine not being a mum. Now I can't imagine my old life at all. But you know, it does change a lot of things, in that you can't just, it was a long time before I had a hot drink, and it was, I think as well, if you're breastfeeding, it is a lot more difficult, because everything relies on you, and newborn babies just feed all the time. So you know, it is hard to get that rest, but that after about 6 to 12 weeks, that really settles down, and it becomes really easy, and it's far easier than bottle feeding. And if your baby can take a bottle as well, that's great, because then your husband can kind of share the role, which is what we did eventually. So that was really good, and you do get a rest then. And you can start really getting out and about and enjoying life in general. So that aspect was difficult, and I think some newborns are very kind of calm and they sleep a lot, whereas I had a newborn that was just totally, it threw chaos into the works. Sebastian just cried and cried and cried and fed and fed and fed. It really does depend on your child, but one thing I will say is just, you know, take all the support you can, and the beginning newborn chaotic bit, it does end. It does end, and it only gets easier. However, even though it is chaotic and it's tiring and it's really hard, please enjoy it as much as you can, because I didn't, and I really regret that. I'd love to go back to those days, even though I was tired and exhausted, and it was hard being a first child, and him being as kind of, I don't want to say as bad, but because it sounds horrible, but as difficult as he was, made it hard to enjoy him. But do enjoy it, because the newborn stage is such a precious stage, and it goes so fast. So yeah, just really embrace that. Another part of your life that will change is just your day-to-day, obviously your day-to-day routine. Things like, it was quite difficult for us to remember that once Sebastian was kind of getting into himself into a bedtime routine, that people would say, hey, do you want to come out for dinner? And it would be like, oh, we can't because Sebastian's in bed. And I found personally ruining, or not ruining, but kind of taking him out of his routine really affected his sleep throughout the night and through the morning. So it would just make my job harder. So I was more inclined to say, no, I'm really sorry, you know, it'd have to be before 7 o'clock. And that still continues to this day. When they're little tiny newborns, it's very different. They're not in a kind of body clock. They're not in a really strict routine, so that's different. You can kind of take them out in their carry cot. But Sebastian's at the age now where he really can't sleep in his carry cot. He's too big for it. He can't sleep in his car seat, and the pushchair is just not it's just not ideal. It's not ideal for us. So that's, unless we get a babysitter, that's kind of something we just don't do now. Me and my husband used to go to cinema once, twice a week. We will be lucky now to go once a month, but we do try and go once a month. We try to get a babysitter and go and see kind of latest films, because it's something we really love doing. Just general things for yourself. It's actually quite, I found the 3 to 4 month period probably the really nicest, easiest. Your baby isn't rolling around or doing any, well, they might be, but Sebastian wasn't rolling or doing anything, you know. He would just sit there really nicely and watch TV, and he didn't really cry much, and he was just a real pleasure. He was such a happy, he still is a really happy baby, and I could get my makeup done and I could get ready for the day, and you know, it was just really nice and easy. And now it's gone back to being quite hard, because Sebastian is on the move. He doesn't crawl yet, but he rolls everywhere. So getting ready in the morning is very difficult. I have to either well, it's just difficult. Most days I don't wear makeup anymore unless he's down for his nap, or he's in the car and I can do a little bit in the car. So yeah, or unless my husband's here to look after him on a weekend, I can't unfortunately put my makeup on. It's just, there just isn't the kind of slot, unless I get up before he does, which is at like 7. And quite frankly, if he gets up at 7:30, then I'm going to sleep until 7:30. So your marriage does come under a lot of strain, I think, because you are devoting so much of your time to your child, and your husband often, I know Chris and I often argue about things like, if I'm dealing with him, I have my way of dealing with him and it always works, and Chris has his way, and kind of you know, sometimes our opinions can conflict, and just general stress. You know, you'll be really tired and kind of cranky, and then you may take it out on them. And it's really nice now that Sebastian goes to bed and he doesn't totally sleep through in that he gets up for his dummy, but he does actually sleep through without a feed. He'll definitely sleep till at least midnight without any disturbance. We get that whole evening, and that evening is so precious, and we tend to cram everything we can in, and we watch episodes, or we do arts and crafts, or whatever is our own little thing that we do. So that's really important, that time, and you will get that time once your baby's into a set routine. You will get that time back. Practical things with your just general kind of getting out and about. You will be learning where the lifts are. That's something that I remember going out for the first time with my pushchair and like, oh, I have to take the lift, and you will have to go all the way to the back of the store to go and take the lift, which is really annoying. And you have to often go the long way round to certain places because you have to use the ramp. But the good thing is you get to use the parent and baby car park, which is really good. And also just everything takes a little bit longer because you have to kind of pack your changing bag, or you have to kind of pack up the pram or put them in the pushchair. Everything does take just so much longer. So one thing I will say now is maybe start preparing to add a bit of extra time on. One thing I will say as well, once you've had your baby, is go out and buy yourself, treat yourself to some really nice clothes that fit you really well. You may probably find that you don't fit into your pre-pregnancy clothes just yet, and so, but it's really important, I think, to make yourself look and feel good, because that's one thing I didn't do, and because I felt like I looked terrible and I was always so tired and I hadn't made an effort with my makeup or anything, it made me feel really depressed. So try and sort of spruce your, it's really hard, I know. The last thing you want to be doing when you're so sleep deprived or whatever is sprucing yourself up, but do try it, because it does definitely make a massive difference. Those are the kind of kind of key things that I just want to add in there. These are like based all on my experiences. Sorry, it's quite a long video. One thing I will add as well, this is supposed to, one thing I forgot to add, sorry, in the useless items video is if you're watching this and plan to watch that afterwards or have just watched that, then don't bother buying a changing unit. Although if you want to buy one, obviously buy one, but it's such a waste of time. Like changing units, you won't ever use them. You'll probably store all your stuff in there, like your nappies in there, but you more than likely won't use them. You will end up changing your baby downstairs where you'll be most of the time, or kind of just wherever you are on the floor on the portable changing mat. We never ever used our changing unit. We used our changing unit a couple of times and to store our cloth nappies, but we very rarely used it. And also I find it really annoying as well, the most of the changing units you buy, you change them so that you're laying your baby kind of across and you change them like that way, whereas it's so much easier to change a baby when their legs are towards you. So that was another reason why we decided not to get a changing unit. We have a shelving unit that has a changing unit bit that sticks out, but we took that off after a while because Sebastian, we just never used it. So if you have like a chest of drawers or something, then just put a changing mat on top, and that could be a very cheap alternative to what are very expensive changing units, I have noticed. Anyway, that's just like a little add-on there, sorry. I'm totally waffling in this video. Again, my mind is very much on Sebastian, who is downstairs, and I can hear him getting a bit antsy, so I'm going to cut this video short now, and I'll see you guys soon. Bye!